Hey friend, welcome back to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast. If you are looking to switch to more natural remedies in your home, but you're feeling really overwhelmed with where to start, today I want to share with you one area that I think is a super easy way to get started in switching out, maybe going from more of the over-the-counter type of medicine to using natural remedies in your home. I really love starting with this because I think that there are a lot of very basic, simple options that you can use in your home to really help your family and improve your health. So let's go ahead and get started. Hi friend, do you dream of having a garden but you don't know where to start? Do you want to switch to more natural products but feel overwhelmed by all the options? Do you believe that a holistic lifestyle would help your special needs kiddo but you're daunted by all the information out there? Welcome to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast, where you will learn how to work towards your dream for homesteading, gardening, and holistic living in small, simple steps that won't overwhelm you. Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a wife, Jesus follower, and mom to some amazing kids. As some of my kids began experiencing health struggles and developmental delays, I decided it was time to switch to a holistic lifestyle. I quickly became stressed out and burnt out, feeling like I needed to change everything at once. I finally realized that I had to start making one small change at a time, then build from there. I learned to walk this holistic journey in a way that works for me and my family, without stress or overwhelm or constantly feeling like I wasn't doing enough. If you're ready to hear from another mama who understands what it's like to have no time and who can help you make changes towards better health for your family in a way that works for your specific life, then this is the podcast for you. Pop in your earbuds, reheat your coffee for the third time, and let's do this. Have you been wanting to switch to a more natural lifestyle, to start feeding your family healthier foods, and or to start growing your own garden, but you're feeling really alone in taking on this endeavor? Maybe you have a lot of questions and you don't know who to ask. Maybe you're looking for support and you just feel like you don't have anyone in your friend group that really is on the same journey as you. Well, if that is the case, then head over to our free Facebook community and join us there. You can find us at bit.ly/motherhood community. We would love to be able to support you along this journey. I hope to see you there. Okay, so I know for me, oftentimes I will, start scrolling on Facebook, or I will watch a bunch of YouTube videos, read some books, listen to some audiobooks, take in a bunch of information, and have these big plans for all the stuff I'm going to switch in my home. Like, I'm going to change out these products. I'm going to start making my own cleaning products. I'm going to try all these new recipes, do all these things. And then what ends up happening is I just get overwhelmed with information. And I end up typically not doing anything at all other than continuing to consume information. And so I've really been trying to break out of that habit and really focus on a few select things at a time. And I am going to have an episode maybe in the next week or two going into that a little bit more and kind of how we can really focus in and be successful in making these changes in our life, because oftentimes we have the desire to switch to natural remedies like I'm sharing about in this episode. But we just get so overwhelmed with the details that we don't ever actually follow through with it. And I think that finding one thing to really focus on and working on that can be very beneficial. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is one area that you could work on switching to more natural remedies in your home. If you have a desire to get rid of some of the over-the-counter medications that you're using, but you want something that works, then let's focus on one area. And the area I want to talk about today is seasonal allergies, because I feel like so many of us are struggling with seasonal allergies right now. And so if we can have some different remedies in our home ready to go, I'm not saying you can't use the over-the-counter medication. If that's what works for you, great. But if you're looking for an option for yourself or your kids or your spouse, whatever it may be, then I think that there are some great things for you to kind of add into your arsenal of different ways you can really support your body or your family's body as you're dealing with seasonal allergies. So let's just talk a little bit about seasonal allergies and what can oftentimes be contributing to the symptoms that we have. One of those things is histamine. And so histamine is basically just a chemical messenger in the body that is going to cause symptoms. It'll cause like an inflammatory reaction. It also will cause different symptoms such as runny nose, coughing, excess mucus. And so oftentimes we correlate an excess of histamine in the body with allergy symptoms. There's also been at least one, I know, maybe more than one study done linking poor gut health to seasonal allergies as well. So oftentimes our gut, as we know, it can regulate our immune system. And they have found studies showing that the gut can actually affect our ability, or basically our sensitivity to these different allergens that we're experiencing in our environment, especially as different pollens and stuff come out. And so it actually also plays an impact on that. I'm not going to talk as much about the gut today on this episode because we really are just focusing on remedies. But I also want to say that when you're looking at this, so if you are noticing that maybe this year compared to last year, you are having a lot more seasonal allergy symptoms, I would definitely also try to look and see, are you having other signs of poor gut health? And if so, a great way to look at really getting to a root cause of this and trying to combat this in the long term would also be to support your gut. But today, this remedies we're going to talk about, for the most part, play a large role in trying to either limit or block histamine in the body, which is going to help to reduce the symptoms that you're going to have with seasonal allergies. Okay, so one thing that we want to talk about is quercetin. Quercetin, you can find this in foods. You can also just get an over-the-counter capsule or something like that. Just with quercetin, I do both, honestly. And quercetin is a powerful antioxidant that actually will help to restrict the release of histamine in the body. And like we've said, histamine is going to play a role in causing those symptoms. So if we can block the release of histamine, we are less likely to have those symptoms. Elderberries are actually really high in quercetin. Also, capers I actually think that capers were maybe the food that had the highest amount of quercetin in it. Apples, dill, red onions, all contain quercetin in varying amounts. Again, with capers being the highest, I believe that elderberry was fairly high as well. One note with the red onions is if you want to get as much quercetin as you can out of them, you do want to make sure that you are not boiling them or fry them, because it will cause that quercetin to break down and you're not going to get as much out of it whenever you do boil or fry those red onions. So one thing I like to keep on hand, typically what I will do, actually, I keep some tinctures on hand, and I will link anything that I share today, I will link down below in the show notes. But there are some tinctures that specifically deal with seasonal allergies that actually contain a lot of these ingredients that I'm talking about. And it does have elderberry in it, and also keeping just elderberries in general, like an elderberry syrup or an elderberry tincture on hand is really nice. But I do also keep quercetin capsules on hand typically, especially if we're really struggling a lot with some kind of, even a reaction to foods. Oftentimes I will give quercetin just because it kind of helps to reduce the amount of histamines in the body that are really creating that inflammatory response. So number one for me is quercetin. Number two is cod liver oil. Now with cod liver oil, I will say you do want to be making sure that you're buying something that is pure, good quality cod liver oil. You don't want to be getting something that's not what it says it is, or that is just poor quality. It's really not going to benefit you much if you're not getting a good quality cod liver oil. And I will link one that I do trust. Actually, I'll link a couple of them because I've used two different kinds, and I'll link both of those below. So how cod liver oil can help you as far as it comes to seasonal allergies, because you may be thinking, what? It doesn't sound like something you would typically recommend for seasonal allergies, but it is rich in vitamin D and vitamin A, which will support the immune system. It also has omega-3s in it, which are also going to help with inflammation, and also it's going to help to support your gut. Again, we're talking back again about how a lot of times when we're having these seasonal allergy symptoms, we may be having poor gut health. So if we can support our gut as well, that's very, very beneficial. And so for me, being able to boost this immune system and support the gut is very beneficial. Also, just in general, cod liver oil is excellent for brain health. If you have a child who's dealing with any kind of brain inflammation, that's something we struggle with in our home. Supporting them with good, healthy omega-3s is extremely beneficial. There is a doctor, his name is Dr. Nemechek. It's called the Nemechek protocol. It is something I did with my kids for years. And he talks a lot about trying to avoid seed oils, inflammatory oils, and how that does impact our brain. I'll try to remember to link his stuff below as well in case that's something you're struggling with and you want to check it out. Why I really liked his protocol, which we haven't done it in a couple years, but it's very simple. It's just 3 basic ingredients. They have a group for support and all of that. And I really, really liked his stuff. But if you're wanting to kind of dive in a little bit deeper on why we need those omega-3s and why we want to try to reduce those inflammatory oils, I highly recommend go check out his stuff. He does have a website, and they used to have a Facebook group in the past, but I honestly don't know if they still do. But that's a great resource for that. Okay, number 3 would be local raw honey. I feel like this is a pretty common one. We hear about this a lot. It is likely to contain the triggers in your area, especially if you're getting that local and you're getting raw, which is going to help you as you're working toward alleviating those allergy symptoms. It helps your body to not be reacting to it as much. It's very similar to like whenever you go to an allergist and they're giving you small exposures in shots. It's giving you that small exposure, which is allowing your body to handle it versus just whenever it is getting it in a large quantity when it's out in the environment, your body just struggles to adjust. What I really like about raw honey, besides the fact that it's delicious, is that it also is anti-inflammatory and it also has antioxidant properties. So it's just going to be very supportive of your body overall. And I love putting it in a warm tea. I don't do it in like a hot tea because I know that heating up that honey can really break down and destroy a lot of the nutrients and also the enzymes that make that raw honey so beneficial. So my preference is to just make sure that I'm putting it in more of like a warmish / not really lukewarm, a little warmer than lukewarm tea, just because I want to make sure if I'm using that raw honey, especially if you spent the money for a local raw honey, you do not want to be breaking down and destroying all of the benefits by heating it up too much. But that is something that I love to do as well. And one thing I really like about this option is it is really easy to give to your children. It's not something you're going to have to be worried about dosing or anything like that. And most kids like the taste of honey, so you can find ways to add that into their diet. One way that I really like giving my kids raw honey, now I do not use local raw honey for this, but I do use raw honey, is in their protein bars that I make for them. And I love the fact that I know I'm giving them a lot of good nutrients and enzymes whenever I'm giving them that raw honey in their bars. And especially for my children who often struggle with certain foods and I worry about whether or not they're getting enough nutrients, being able to really pack a lot of nutrients, calories, and just overall a lot of different food groups into those bars for them is really helpful. Okay, number 5 is vitamin C. So with vitamin C, it can actually act as a natural antihistamine and it can also decrease inflammation in the body, which is really, really beneficial. Vitamin C can also prevent histamine from even forming in the first place instead of going in and blocking the histamine that is already there, which is typically what an over-the-counter medication can do. I personally like to use a food form of vitamin C. So this is going to be something like camu powder or the acerola berry powder. Those are my preferences. Again, this is another option. I get a powder as well that I'll link below that I believe it has both of those in it, plus some other things. And I will just mix it into a juice or something for my kids. It's something that I find to be fairly easy to give to my kids as well, which is really, really beneficial. So keeping a good quality vitamin C on hand is a must-have. Obviously, there are other benefits, especially if you're dealing with any kind of sickness. Increasing vitamin C intake can be very beneficial for the immune system. So in my opinion, just having that on hand is kind of a must-have in our first aid kit here at my house. Okay, number 5 is nettle. So we're kind of getting into more of the herbs that I will use. And these, for the 2 herbs, it really depends. I will kind of talk about it, how I use both of them, just so it gives you an idea, because I'm just going to talk about 2. There are more herbs that you absolutely could use, but I'm going to go over 2 that I have used. So nettle, I love, mainly because I actually love nettle for all kinds of things, but specifically when we're discussing seasonal allergies, it is anti-inflammatory. Also, it can block histamine receptors in the body, and it contains quercetin, vitamin A, and vitamin C. So if you're looking for a really nutrient-dense herb, I would say nettle, stinging nettle is one of those. I will typically use dried nettles. You do not want to mess with fresh nettles, especially you don't want your children messing with it because it's called stinging nettles for a reason. But once they are dried, you're not really going to have to worry about that. So using dried nettle in a tea or in making a tincture out of it is typically what I will do. I typically will actually make up some kind of a tea blend and add the nettle in there as part of that blend. And then my last one, which is number 6, is ginger. So ginger is a natural antihistamine as well. Ginger tea is great for congestion. It's also really good for a headache. And one study showed that ginger suppressed the inflammatory proteins in the body, which can either prevent or actually relieve allergy symptoms. Again, with ginger's more of a hot herb. It's not something that your kids may not necessarily want, or if you're going to do it, I would absolutely mix it into a tea blend with a more of a smaller amount of that, just so that they're not getting that really hot warming effect that's overwhelming. I personally don't really love hot things either, so I tend to use it in smaller amounts. I know people who will do like ginger juice, people who do like ginger shots. I don't know if I could do that, but those are different options. What I typically do is I use dried ginger and I mix it into, again, some kind of a tea blend. So I'm typically going to be adding like nettle and ginger and then a few other herbs. Typically I'll add some herbs that I like the taste of into that blend in order to make the tea palatable because I want to be able to enjoy drinking the tea. And if I just did nettle and ginger, I'm not personally going to enjoy that. So I'll add in things. If I'm going to do it like at bedtime, I will add in some chamomile, maybe like some linden to help with sleep, especially if I'm feeling congested and yuck. Then I want some things to support good rest. So I'll add in like linden flowers and chamomile or something like that I don't mind the taste of, and I'll make a blend that way. But also, if you don't want to mess with that, if you're not really into tea making, there are definitely various blends of like allergy type teas that you can already find mixed up for you. And like I said, I will share below some of the products that we keep on hand at home that we really enjoy. And yeah, that way you can just kind of get started, focus on this one area if this is something you're dealing with in your home right now, and really focus on finding some solutions that work for yourself and your family that you feel really comfortable with and that are like your go-to, so that whenever a symptom pops up, you know you have it there in your medicine cabinet and you know it works and you know how you feel comfortable and you know how to use it. And that really is what I think is necessary for us to begin switching out to more natural products and natural remedies long term. Is we have to start small and we really have to feel comfortable and confident in what we're doing. And so what I'm giving you today is really just a starter information. Please go in, read more on this stuff, learn more. You know, I love getting herbal, like different herb books, just because it helps me to really focus on one specific herb. I really like a lot of the books I have. I'll try to write in my notes to do a podcast about the different herb books that I really enjoy, but a lot of the ones that I use, they have basically just various sections on specific herbs. And that has really helped me to feel more comfortable with the herbs I'm using whenever I'm really able to do a deep dive on each of those herbs. So I do recommend, again, this is just a starting guide. Keep learning, keep figuring out what works best for you and your family. And yeah, head over to our Facebook community. Let me know if this episode was beneficial for you. Let us know if there's something else that you have found to be really, really helpful. I would love to hear that. There are also some homeopathic remedies that I really enjoy, but I was really trying to focus and get it down to a smaller number for this episode because I do not want to overwhelm you guys. But I hope this was helpful. I hope to see you over in the Facebook community. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you back next time. Hey Mama, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who is wanting to live more holistically without the overwhelm? Also, don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. It blesses and encourages me to know that this show is helping you. All right, friends, it's time for me to go work in the garden and make some homemade bone broth. I will see you back next week.